What's up, guys? We're here with an update video. I know a catch hasn't been posted in a little bit, but starting in September, we will start going crazy with the post again. But we're going to do a little bit of an update video on a few cases from the past year. Of course, if you want every update that we get, you can go to Locals in the pinned comment where we give updates, tons of videos early and uncensored, and all these live streams. But without further ado, we'll get right into it. So, we'll start off with Dakota from Mooresville, North Carolina. He's the guy, if you don't remember. We caught him with his neighbor present. His neighbor was a former police officer, and his neighbor helped me kind of question Dakota about his activities online. Dakota came to go meet 3 people that he thought were young in Charlotte. He drove off when we tried to go after him, and we ended up finding his house in Mooresville, which ended up being a lot better because that county takes it a little bit more seriously. And we approach him at his neighbor's home. His neighbor lets us in, and we interrogate him. And he ends up confessing to tons and tons and tons of images that he probably shouldn't be having on his phone. And he ends up getting arrested on scene. And since then, he has taken a plea deal to 14 years in prison. And, obviously they should all get life, right? But 14 years on a first offense, especially when they're 22 years old, that's a really high sentence. So definitely not complaining about that one. Good job, Iredell County. So Dakota does not get out until 2038. All right, guys, so the next person we got is James Morris from Cambridge, Ohio. You guys might remember him as the whiny one who had all the dogs in his front lawn, who offered the decoy $20 to do you-know-what with him. He did get cuffed on scene, didn't get officially charged till a couple days later, but they got him for compelling prostitution in Ohio, which means basically soliciting prostitution from who you believe to be somebody under the age of 16. And usually in Ohio, our chat logs cannot get them prosecuted. However, there is a caveat in the law that says if they offer money to who they believe to be a minor, it can be charged. But if it's just straight up solicitation, it has to be a cop on the other end. So weird kind of wording, but we took advantage of that and were able to get him arrested. And since then, he is a multiple-time offender, and he has agreed to a 4-year prison sentence. Not the worst, but should be a lot longer in my opinion. But, at least for 4 years in Cambridge, Ohio, kids are a little bit safer. So, yep, he's currently doing 4 years. All right, guys, these next 2 we're going to go over, they're not quite convicted yet. However, it's a surefire thing in my opinion. So, some of y'all may remember Andrew from last October, who we caught at his job. And he was one of the most unique catches we've ever had because he was not going after a decoy. We did not find him in a group. He was a tip from somebody that had me on Snapchat. I have a lot of people on Snapchat, Shebo16, SHEBO16. I was going to call her Kay. Kay hit me up. She was on a dating app, not posing as a minor or anything. And she messaged me. She saw that this guy lived close to me and near Houston, Texas. She messaged me saying that this Andrew guy, is telling her that he has all these weird fetishes involving children. So she let me know for the next week. Me and Kay were communicating, and I was kind of giving her guidance on what to say, what to ask him, just to get as much info from him as possible. But the problem was he only gave out that his name was Andrew, and obviously there's a lot of Andrews in the world. But I called him as a package delivery guy. His number did not go to anybody. And some way, somehow, we found his job. And that next day, we went to his job. And the reason we did it so quick is because he unfortunately said some very, very bad things about what he's done to kids, including his youngest babies, to her. And who knows if it's true or not, or if he was exaggerating. But nonetheless, he was very into kids. He had CP on his phone when we approached him. And the cops in League City did not arrest him on scene. However, they did seize his phone. A few days later, an arrest warrant was put out for him for the child. But unfortunately, he already skipped town, and he completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, I thought he became no longer with us, if you catch my drift, we're on YouTube, so I have to say it like that. But this is the craziest story to ever happen to any of our catches. His family didn't know where he was. He destroyed his cell phone, but don't take it from me. Ozzy in Virginia is going to explain what in the heck happened with Andrew. So we're going to get into that right now. How's it going?
Well, how are you?
Good. So so we're on a live stream right now, just letting you know, and I kind of gave him a rundown about what happened to this dude. Like, I didn't tell him what you're about to tell us, but I just kind of said, like, I thought he killed himself, but turns out he did not kill himself. And
Yeah, so I guess pretty much what you told me yesterday. If you kind of repeat that, I'll keep asking you like questions about stuff if it kind of stalls or whatever. But
Yeah.
they kind of have like I kind of let them off, and I just said that I'm going to be calling you. And you want to state your name for everybody, or?
Yeah, sure. So I go by Ozzy, and I live in Southwest Virginia.
All right. So, mind y'all, Andrew was in League City, Texas, and why is Ozzy from Southwest Virginia contacting me about Andrew? She's about to tell us right now. So, Ozzy, what the hell happened with Andrew?
All right. So back at the end of April, we were driving down. My boyfriend was driving down from Roanoke, and we pick up people all the time, let them stay. We have a big property, and Andrew was coming down and coming off of the Appalachian Trail, and so we pick him up and we were housing him. Seemed like really nice guy. He told us his mom had died of cancer a few months ago. His sister had died in childbirth about a year ago, and his brother had died a couple of years before that in a car accident. And so he said he sold all of his things and just didn't have an attachment to the place he was at anymore and just wanted to travel. Told us he had just come from Louisiana, just walking on the trails. And so we picked him up and we let him stay. And unfortunately, the only income we have is my part-time income, and so after a month, we told him that I couldn't keep feeding him, and he needed to get a job. And we thought he was kind of just loafing around looking for a job, but he found one at Goodwill. They don't do background checks, and they pay on a money card, so he didn't have to do any bank transfers. And he told us he didn't have a bank account because of political reasons. And so he cooked for us at that point once a week. We cooked for him, each of us taking turns. We drove him to and from work for the past 3 months. And about 2.5 weeks ago at this point, he bought an e-bike so that he could get to and from the Goodwill without us having to drive him, which was great for us because that was becoming a lot. And the bike came with his name on the package. And my boyfriend and I were sitting down having a conversation, trying to decide, okay, when do we have to tell him, hey, you need to have your own place by then, because we were just overstretching as far as our hospitality goes. And we were talking on Tuesday, last Tuesday, I want to say, and we were just like, yeah, he just can't get fired by then, because he was telling us both these grandiose stories about the most mundane things. And then we realized he was telling both of us separate stories, which seemed kind of ridiculous because they were such mundane things. And so finally, having learned his last name, I was just like, I'm going to Google him. I did.
Wait, Ozzy, do you want to talk about his patriotism and service to the country?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was very, very proud and very pretentious, I will say, about how he had served 3 deployments and had all this special training and could do all the things. And his officers and higher ups really liked him, so he got to do a bunch of other things. He would get into arguments with people at Walmart when we would go for a grocery trip, saying oh, you think you've done a deployment? Well, I've done 3, and all of these things. We have found his documents. He didn't get past 2 weeks of basic training, so that was fun. But yeah, I Googled his name, and the first thing that came up was an article out of League City saying that he was wanted. And the only thing I saw on the Google when I first searched it up was his picture and the preview of a title saying police are looking for. So at that point, my heart dropped, clicked on it, saw that he was wanted for child, and my heart fell out of my ass. And so, yeah, called the detective on his case, which the number was provided in the article, went to voicemail, so I called local 911, and we made a plan. I was told to stay in my house. My boyfriend went up to the gate to let the police in. I was watching all of this happen just from our cat door, because where Andrew was staying is a barn that's between the gate and our house. And so my boyfriend walks down, and I'm expecting the couple officers that I talked to, but he's followed by 12 officers, because in a small little rural town in Virginia, this is a really big deal, and it's probably a really big deal in big cities too, honestly. They were surprised. They were just like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? How did you find him? But luckily, what made us pull the trigger to call the cops was we found your video posted back in October. And so, yeah, he was arrested. He complied as far as I could tell, and as far as what was told to me. Again, I didn't see the whole incident, but he told the police officers, oh, I don't need that tablet. You can leave that. Turns out the tablet was stolen from his previous job, and who knows what's on that.
Well, how did he call people and communicate with them?
So he didn't. We gave him a track phone because for 1 week in July, we had to go move my grandparents in Kansas, and he stayed and he took care of our cats. And so we were just like, hey, here's a track phone. It was like $15, just in case there's emergencies. So he had that at first, and then he stopped using it because at Goodwill, he stole a phone, basically a smartphone, and got just like a prepaid plan.
Piece of shit.
So, yeah. So he only had that phone for a couple weeks, like his actual phone, but no one had contacts for him, like at Goodwill. He used email mostly was how he communicated and how we got notifications before the track phone and before his new phone.
Wow. Well, that is a crazy story. You said more details on this than you did yesterday. So even some of the stuff you said now just made me just go, like stealing a phone from Goodwill, getting into arguments at Walmart with people. That's wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, and it's wild. When I called, the detective called me the next morning and was like, do you know where he is? Is he still with you? Like, do you know his whereabouts? And I was like, oh, he's arrested. And she said, thank God. And then the next question she asked was, do you have any children? And luckily we don't right now. And so we were just like, no, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, based on your interview and now thinking back, I'm a school teacher. I'm getting my master's in education, and so
Congrats.
I don't work currently out of school, but I have lots of stories about kids. And I mean, as far as I knew, for the past 3 months, we were just like friends. He was just living on our property, so like we had lots of conversations. And looking back on those now, it's like, holy shit! Why? How? Why? Like, what is the point, honestly? But it was gross. That same day that he got arrested, like, I dropped him off from work, gave him a hug, and then after he's arrested, I scrubbed my skin so hard.
Wow. Well, I mean, that is nuts, and it just goes to show you, man, these people, I know the people watching know this at this point, but it's not always the hick in the trailer park with the Android. It can be, cunning people like Andrew. It can be anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a height, doesn't have an appearance, doesn't have a race, doesn't have a gender, doesn't have an age. Anybody can be a, and yeah, I mean, luckily everybody's okay. I'm glad you guys are safe. Who knows what he's capable of. But yeah, Ozzy, I really appreciate your call. And if nobody picks up his shit in 60 days, I want my teardrops. So
yeah, no, like I said, we got personal files. We have all of his we have his birth certificate. We have a pad of letters that he seems to have written and then never given to anyone. So yeah, we have a bunch of stuff. We got to keep the e-bike. So if after 60 days no one comes.
So on the topic of Virginia, we just caught an individual not too long ago, back in August. Well, maybe it is August, whatever. We caught an individual earlier this month, and His name is Holden, and what makes him stick out is that he's basically around my age. I'm 24, he's 23, but I look older, so I can always tell him like, oh man, when I was your age, man, I was always messing up. But he was crazy because he threatened me with his assault rifle, and so I left his property, but I ended up calling him on the phone, convinced him to come back and talk to me, and we end up getting confessions out of him. He admits to watching very young stuff on the dark web. But what was crazy about him is, besides threatening me and getting 9 counts of solicitation, he brought a shotgun and his AR-15 to the scene where he met me again. He didn't brandish it at us, but he had it in his car with him, which I think was nuts. This guy was very unstable, and his catch is on Locals. If you want to go see it, it's in the pinned comment. Only $10 a month. That's how you support us traveling nationwide and get to see over 100 videos, early and uncensored, including ones that we don't feel comfortable posting here. I mean, we just had one where the cop body slams the guy, and unfortunately, it cannot come here. So that's on Locals. If you want to go see it, the Holden catch. We will not be posting that full one here on YouTube. And he gets a little. He's definitely a crazy one, so we have to be careful with what we put out. So that's on Locals in the pinned comment. But if you want to see tons of more updates, also be sure to join Locals. We only showed a few, and there is more convictions from this month that we found out about that we've not talked about here. So Locals in the pinned comment if you want to support what we do and see over 100 videos early and uncensored, and support the team that travels the most and catches the sickest.